Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our impromptu session here on ArcGIS Insights. We're very excited about this product, and we unveiled it 2 weeks ago at the FedGIS conference. So if you saw the demo, and what I'll be showing you in just a minute is this idea that your information lives on little cards, and cards can play many different roles. But the other really key idea is that cards are linked together automatically. And so if you have content coming from not just a single data source, but from multiple data sources, you can start to explore relationships between them because the cards are automatically building relationships where possible. And so the cards are also meant to be very disposable. One of the things that's been really interesting for us is how much we've become attached to the notion of a single map in our workflow. Most of us have been trained by our software over the years to work with the main map, and you bring more layers in and bring more layers in. With cards, we want you to think of them as being these very quick temporary workspaces, these sort of quick tearaway, almost like a Post-it note, where you sketch an idea, you ask a question, that might lead to another one, that might lead to another one, you might chain them together, but don't get too attached to your cards. I know, for example, in a browser, if you kill something, you think like, oh, I've lost it, you haven't. And so we want to get you into this mode of thinking in a very exploratory way. The idea here is that we have your workbook, and your workbook, think of it as a project. It can contain multiple pages, multiple cards, multiple data sources. One of the challenges with this project is to not think of this as trying to recreate Pro with just a different interface, or recreate very, very feature-rich large programs. But the question we always start with is, what is the minimum number of buttons? If each pixel costs $10,000, what would you actually build? You know, if each click costs you $100,000, how many clicks are you going to build? What is the smallest set of functionality that covers the greatest number of people is a really important idea with Insights, because we have a couple foundational ideas. Nothing should be more than 2 or 3 clicks away. It has to run on an iPad. It has to work for people who don't have a 4-year degree or 15 years of GIS experience. It has to work for people who say, I have sales data, I know a little bit about mapping, and I want to bring my data in and I want to understand it. Can you help me? And this is our answer to that question.
So one of the central organizing ideas with Insights is that your content is contained within a workbook. And a workbook can have many pages, and the pages contain cards. Cards are your data, they're your representations or visualizations of that data, they're the results that you generate, they can be the tables and so on, but they're the various ways in which we understand and work with our content. Now I can bring in content from many locations. It can be my content, my organization, content from Esri's Living Atlas, or authoritative collection of great geographic information. But I know there's a data set that I want to work with about Chicago gas prices and the price at the pump in Chicago. And this was on ArcGIS Online, and so I'm bringing it in. And because it is a map, it's rendered as a map as soon as it comes in, and it's sitting here ready for me to work with. Now, of course, this data is live, and the cards are live, so I can update them and I can re-render them and change the styling. If I want to get in here, I can do the smart mapping, color ramp work. If I want to, I can change the style, but I'm going to leave it for now because this is a pretty effective map. Let's open up this data set now and see what's inside of here. There's a lot of rich content in here, and this is what's going to allow me to explore the data set and ask different types of questions. So the first thing I'm interested in is price, and I'm going to bring price across, and I'm going to try to create a map from that. Well, I did, and it works. But the problem is all of the prices, well, first of all, there's just too many gas stations, and second, all of the prices are pretty close in price, and so there's really not a lot of variation in the circle. So I'm going to delete that card because it took 1 second to create it, and I'm not too attached to it. One of the ideas that we really want to emphasize is that cards are disposable. They're these temporary workspaces where you can ask questions. So let's go back to price, and we're going to bring this over, and we're going to create a chart from it. And now you can see I have a histogram that shows the distribution of gas prices. The even better thing is that the histogram and the map are automatically hooked up together for me. I didn't have to do this. And so as I click through here, I can see, yeah, actually the highest gas prices are concentrated in downtown Chicago, which is what I would expect. Now, I have a hypothesis, and that is that some brands are more expensive than other brands. So let's go and find the corporations that are selling this gas and bring them across and create a chart out of this. And I can position this chart anywhere I like, but I'm going to open this up a little bit. And you can see that certain retailers definitely have more gas stations in the Chicago area. So if I click on these, I can see where they're located. And some of these big retailers sell gas, of course, throughout the entire region, and some of them are a little more regional and have fewer gas stations or more concentrated in certain areas. But if you notice, the histogram is also updating. And so what I'm seeing here is that some brands definitely have a small range of price, and other gas retailers explore the full range here. And so there must be something else going on. It's not just simply who's selling the gas, it must be where the gas is being sold. Now, one of the things I can do is drill into this bar chart by going group by. And I can group by the county if I want, because of course there are a bunch of different counties here. And let's really open this guy up so we have a good view. And of course the full preservation is here. And so I can say, well, show me all of the gas stations in this county and what is the gas price associated with it. Now, if I had the time, I could bring in additional information, and I might explore a hypothesis like the gas prices are related to the on-ramps or proximity to highways or to income or to real estate prices. All of that content is available through Esri's Living Atlas. And so I can really start to ask a question, quickly see an answer, and try again. And of course, if I didn't like anything that I did, I can always undo it. I can go in here and I can filter content if I want to. I can do a card level filter, and I could choose a field that I want to filter by. Let's say I want to filter by zip code, and I'm only interested in certain zip codes. I could do that. So why don't we go here, and I can quickly focus this down to certain zip codes if I felt that I wanted to. And so the filter interface is really pretty straightforward, and it allows you to quickly hone in on the information you're interested in. Well, there's another thing here that's really helpful, and that is there's still a lot of gas stations here, far too many for me to really make sense of. And so what I want to do is aggregate these up to start to understand spatial patterns. So the great thing about Insights is it comes bundled with standard geographies. And I want to emphasize what a big deal that is, because I don't have to go and find these boundaries in order to use them in my analysis. So I can grab zip codes and I can drag them across, and I can either add them as a new layer if I want to, and you can see they get rendered that way. Well, that isn't what I want, so I'm going to go in here and delete them. What I want to do is add zip codes and aggregate the gas stations to these zip codes, and I want to do it by sum, so the total number. And you can see now that I've created an entirely different depiction of gas stations, and you can see that there is a different number of gas stations in each location.
Let's go back and show you an example of one of my favorite features with this, and this is in this one here. I had a 4 kilometer hexagon mesh that I wanted to add some data to because I wasn't understanding it when it was disaggregate raw data. And so I'm just going to go in and delete, remove this layer. And I'm going to unfilter and get all of my data back.
So I found some interesting data about the Netherlands and the rail stations in the Netherlands, and I want to understand the geography of this a little bit better. And I brought in 3 different data sources, and I'm going to start working with them. Let's add some more content to the page first. And the great thing is I can just drag content from my data pane and do what I want with it over here. And of course the cards are linked together, which is great. I'm actually just interested in all of the data, so I want to come over here and see it as a table. And I can open this up and scan through and see my data represented as a table. I can do sorting, I can do filtering, all the things you'd expect to do. But here's something that you've probably never seen before, and that is the ability to grab content from one card and add it to a different card. Now I could add this as a new layer if I wanted to. I could just add all these rail stations. But I'm going to do spatial aggregation, so I'm going to sum the number of rail stations per hexagon. And I'm going to run this, and it creates this now. And it creates this now as a results layer. And so over here you can see I've got this results layer because it went and it ran a calculation for me. And so now I have a much better understanding of the spatial geography of rail stations here. And this idea that you can grab content from one card and use it in another is really, really powerful. Of course, I can get in here and I can do all sorts of styling if I like, just like I do in smart mapping. And I can adjust the size of the circles. I can change the color, all of those kinds of lightweight styling. The other thing I can do is drag not just layers, but individual features from a map and drag them onto another one. So I've selected a single province here in the Netherlands, and what I want to do is I've got 3 choices here with my drop zones. I can add new layer, I can do spatial aggregation, but in this case I want to do filtering. And you can see that I used this polygon to filter this card. I didn't have to write a query, I didn't have to type something in code, I could just literally drag and drop to do a filter. Now, we're going to undo that because I want to show you another very cool feature, and that is the ability to do spatial analysis. And one of the types of spatial analysis that a lot of people want to do are buffers. So why don't we zoom into a small piece of the Netherlands here. And down here in the action button, if you open this up, you can see that we can draw a buffer. Now, it says, what do you want to buffer? I want to buffer the rail stations, and it asks me for a distance. And the problem is I don't really know what distance I want. But we have this button here called Preview, and it allows me to get in and see exactly what these distances look like. I could even re-drag this manually if I want to, but 1 mile looks about right for me. And then I can run the buffers, and I can zoom out now, and I can use these. You can see they're over here as another results layer. I can now use these as an additional chain in my process. Speaking of chains and processes, if I turn the page over, what's been happening this whole time is that the model has been recorded for me, and so that all of the steps that it took for me to create these cards can be recorded for me automatically. The great thing is I can then take this model and share it with my colleagues, or I can reuse it myself. And so it's a really great way for you to do exploratory work and not worry about having to write down all the steps that you took. And of course you can get in here and modify the model as well if you need to. But we think this is a really powerful combination of exploratory visual environments and modeling, data modeling and data exploration.